number of weeks ago, I was at a meeting with a number of mayors and one or two regional chairs, and they were talking about planning the future. And they were thinking about what the GTA would look like 50 years from now. And they had a lot of different ideas. And they were wondering what people would be doing and what people would be saying. And one of the mayors said, I know exactly what they're going to be saying. It's only been 99 years since the Leafs won the Stanley Cup. But I think we'd all agree that he was wrong, given the effort we've seen and the team they've got now. I'm pleased to be here at our Ontario Community Hub Summit. And it really is very fitting that we're holding our summit here at Evergreen Brickworks, a community space that has so many benefits, environmental, social, and economic, to name just a few. And a space that connects people and helps so many others to collaborate and do amazing things. This is the third event I've actually been at here in the last 8 or 9 months. So congratulations, Jeff, and your team on creating an extraordinary and exemplary community hub here at Evergreen Brickworks. And thank you for hosting us here for this conference. There's been a real buzz around the organization of this hub conference, and we all feel the momentum building around the great summit that will give tools and mentoring to community leaders and partners who want to make special things happen in and for their communities. But a community hub is not a new concept. Community hubs offer many services, often in a highly integrated and client-centered way, under one roof. And there have been people leading the charge in expanding this model for decades in virtually every part of the province. There are local champions and partners like yourselves who have been coming together to establish hubs in response to the needs of your communities. Part of my ministry's mandate is to lead projects that directly strengthen our communities and our economy. Community hubs do both, and they do them exceptionally well. And one of our priorities is to provide all of you with the tools you have told us you need so that you can create vibrant and sustainable community hubs to improve the everyday lives of people who live in your communities. So today I'm very pleased to officially launch one of those tools, and that is the Resource Network. CommunityHubs.ca, as you can see on the screens behind me, is a website that will connect Ontarians who are working in and planning for a community hub. The Resource Network is a place where you can connect with people who share your goals. You can exchange best practices, troubleshoot problems, strengthen partnerships, and coordinate efforts across the province. This really is a very exciting website. There is an advanced mapping tool that lets you target community planning and service delivery based on local needs. You really need to see this to believe it. You can look at any number of factors: health, social, demographic information. And it gives you the information you need to create the hub your community needs. There is also a membership feature that connects people in communities across Ontario to foster collaboration. And I would urge all of you to sign up today and create a profile so you can start sooner than later using this particular tool. The broader the network we build together, the more valuable this tool will be for everyone. There are computers set up here at the summit in the activation zone, staffed by people who can walk you through the process to get you started. And this is just the beginning of the Resource Network. This project will continue to grow as more people sign up and new features are added in the coming weeks. A lot of people have been working hard to build this site and to get it ready in time for the summit, and so I'd like to extend a very big thank you to all of them and congratulations on a job well done. We know there's more we can do to facilitate the creation of community hubs, and that's what this summit is all about. It's about coming together from across the province, building capacity, learning from one another, and generating practical solutions. There are so many examples of innovative hubs across the province. The Carlington Community Health Hub in my Ottawa riding is a great example of a collaborative partnership and leadership between the Carlington Community Health Centre and Ottawa community housing. When complete, this hub will offer new affordable homes for low-income seniors, integrating primary medical care and support services under one roof, and it will have a significant and positive impact for many local residents. So we need to continue to work together to remove barriers in order to give life to the efforts of community leaders who want to make a difference. And that's what this summit is all about, taking the next step to help fulfill the generosity of spirit that is part of our Canadian culture, and we see it right here in every community across Ontario. With all of us working better together for our communities, the future will be brighter. And now it's my honor to welcome to the podium one of your biggest and most relentless advocates. It's because of her dedication that we have been able to make great strides. And it's her support of community hubs that has made today possible. So on behalf of everyone here, Premier, thank you for your leadership and guidance. Now please welcome our Premier.
Good morning, this lovely spring morning. It's wonderful to see you all here. Thank you very much. First of all, Jeff, thank you. I don't know where Jeff went. There he is. Jeff, thank you so much for this warm welcome and for all the work that you've done to create this terrific space and for all the wonderful schoolyards that you worked on in Toronto particularly. Thank you, Kat. Thank you, Elder Krieger. Thank you very much. I wanted to be a teacher and then a journalist. Boy, did I go astray. And I have some formal remarks, and I am going to make them, but I just want to say to all of you that I think creating community hubs should be the most natural thing in the world. I think that there is such a lot of intuitive acceptance of this idea in our communities. And a lot of what we are talking about here is getting regulation and government and barriers out of the way to allow what naturally would happen in community. So that's kind of what I said to Karen Petrie when she took on this job. But the reason I say that I think it's the most natural thing in the world is if you think about the past, and Kat was just saying, think about a longhouse, think about a space in a small rural community. My grandmother was born in 1888 in Watford area of southwestern Ontario, and the community hub, there was only one, and it was the church. That was the only place where people gathered, and if you had a problem, or if you were looking for a date, as she was, or you were looking for supports, it was through that community gathering. So I think there's a natural human impulse to come together and treat each other in a holistic way. I think over the years we have separated services out and built walls around things that shouldn't have walls around them. So that's kind of my speech. But I want to talk about some of the things that we are specifically doing. But I also want to, again, acknowledge that this land has been a gathering place for so many Indigenous people over the generations, and I want to show my respect for the history and the many contributions of Indigenous people to our world, not just to Ontario. And part of that contribution, apart from the longhouses or the community, but in the more contemporary past, part of that ongoing contribution has been Indigenous friendship centers that have been operating in Ontario for more than 6 decades. And they are, in so many communities, welcoming safe spaces for Indigenous and non-Indigenous people alike, and some of I would say our first modern day community hubs. And I know there are a number of people here from the Friendship Center movement, and I want to particularly recognize Sheila McMahon, but those of you who are from the Indigenous Friendship Center folks, where are you? Is Sheila here? Is she here yet? Oh, there they are, back there. Good morning. Thank you for being here. And Sheila's from the United Native Friendship Center in Fort Frances, and I was there. I went to the center last year, and it's been a social hub for this small northwestern town for over 45 years, and it's a place where people gather. They can access resources about health, wellness, including mental health. I saw kids programming there. I danced with kids, and it's just a terrific, welcoming place. Or people can get support for getting a job, adjusting to life as a new parent. So it really is a multifaceted place. And their motto is, in unity there's strength. And I think that motto could be applied across Ontario to any community hub. Hubs only happen when people like you come together, you have a common purpose, and you are looking for a way to solve problems. So thank you so much. Merci d'unir vos efforts pour réaliser l'objectif d'offrir un soutien renforcé aux gens de vos collectivités. So, Jeff is correct. I have been working on the notion of community hubs and the practicalities of community hubs for a long time. I've been in provincial politics since 2003, but as Jeff said, I was a school trustee before that, and got my sort of first taste of some of the barriers to creating community hubs when, as a school trustee, I was trying to work in my own ward to make rational use of some school buildings that otherwise would not have been used for public good. So at the school board, and then in every role as I had as minister, and I look to George Sigaric, who was with me when I was in education and knows that I've been talking about this for a long time, which may sound like I'm pretty ineffectual because I've been talking about it for so long. I like to think it's been building to this moment. I had to get to be premier to say, okay, we're going to do this. But I did have successes along the way. There were some successful, maybe not a full community hub, but some practical solutions that we found along the way. But what all that experience has meant is that I really do believe that I understand what many of the obstacles are, and so that's what we're trying to remove. I know how hard it can be to get a hub off the ground, and I also know that you have the convening power of bringing people together, and we're really happy to be able to facilitate that. So it's not a new idea. We've been at this for a while, but right now, I think we have a chance to really get the province behind the community hub movement and then to help you take it to the next level. And the way I think about this is that we are not in the business in this project of mandating a model or forcing communities to do a specific thing. So it's the tension between spontaneous problem solving at the community level and government support and facilitation. And that's tricky, because government is better at mandating. We say, thou shalt, and everybody has to step in line and do what they're told, which never happens, but the illusion is there. Or communities just struggle along, and when there is, when there's the right critical mass of people and loud voices, then something happens in the community. I guess what we want to do is just make it that much easier for that spontaneous eruption of a community hub to happen by facilitating from government. It's tricky. I know this isn't what government usually does or sometimes has trouble doing, but I really think we have a chance to get it right. So we're not going to let this opportunity slip by. That's exactly why I've asked Karen Petrie to be my special advisor on community hubs. And the Community Hubs Advisory group has done a fantastic job with Karen. So can I just ask us to give them a round of applause? Thank you so much. Where are those people? Where are the advisory group? I know Annie's here. Put up your hands if you're on that advisory group. They're sprinkled throughout here. Okay. Well, thank you, all of you. So for 2 years, they've been working from the ground up. Thank you, everyone who has supported their work. The expertise that you've lent to this is terrific. And I hope you'll agree that the recommendations that they brought forward are really making a difference in how community hubs get built in Ontario. I just want to talk about a little bit about the context that we're operating in, because obviously this move to community hubs is not happening in a vacuum. We're living in a world with lots of challenges, whether it's technology or whether it's President Trump. There's uncertainty. I wonder what President Trump would think of a community hub. But the point I'm making is that there's a lot of uncertainty in the world. There's not just uncertainty in Ontario, there's uncertainty globally. People are anxious about the future. They're not sure where their next job is going to come from. They're not sure if they're going to be able to keep the job that they have. And they're worried about the kind of economy that their kids are going to live in. They're worried about the realities of part-time and precarious work. And I think that in a time of uncertainty like this one, Ontario and governments have to step up. That's our responsibility. And in Ontario, we're in a really good position to do that. We have the strongest economy in Canada. We've got the most job creation happening in this province. Our budget is back in balance. And all of that gives us the flexibility and the freedom to respond to the real challenges that people are facing. And it calls on us, because of that situation that we're in, to be bold and to be active and to take initiative where we see a problem that needs to be solved. And again, not taking action for the sake of taking action, but with the clear purpose of creating more fairness and more opportunity. And so every way we can find to do that, it's our responsibility to do so. So that's what you saw in our budget last week. And you know, whether it's in education or in healthcare, we are working to put those supports in place. The health system in the budget last week might be the best example. We know that people don't have extended health benefits for the most part, and so we've put in place some of that security that's been lost. The OHIP Plus program will make prescription medication free for everyone 24 years and younger. Yeah. And it's the first program of its kind in Canada, and it's the biggest expansion of Medicare in Ontario for a generation. And it's a big leap forward towards universal drug coverage for everyone in Ontario. So our health system is evolving with the times. That's part of that evolution. But community hubs are a critical part of that evolution as well, even if we just talk about healthcare. Our budget puts more resources into hospitals to cut wait times, hires more doctors and nurses to deliver care in the community. For smaller, rural and northern towns, community hubs help bring that care right to where people need it and gather those services so that people can access them. So in a changing economy, what I really believe is that hubs can create new opportunities for people to start a business or earn a little extra income, but they can also create those opportunities for accessing better care. A few weeks ago, I was meeting with mayors and wardens in Simcoe County, and Bill French, who's the mayor of Springwater, told me about a combined school and community hub that his town is working on. They want to use part of the school to build a commercial kitchen. And what he said was that access to a commercial kitchen will open up all sorts of opportunities for smaller producers in the community to grow their agri-food businesses, support local farmers. Those are the kinds of examples of why community hubs are critical and why this has grown into such an organic ground-up movement. And it's all those little flashpoints across the province where people come together to take some control over where they live and do things that are intuitively the right thing to do for them. And all of that creates some new security and new opportunities. So having said all of that, I know that there are still challenges. You wouldn't be here having this summit. You wouldn't have come from the distances that you've come, and you wouldn't be sitting here freezing cold if you didn't believe that there was more that we can do. There still are occasions where public land is being sold off without any discussion or consultation about whether there's a different way that it could be used. And that is unacceptable to me. There must be a conversation about that. And some of you, I'm looking at Bill Tucker, some of you have known me since I was Minister of Education, and I was pretty adamant about those conversations having to happen, but the reality is that they don't always happen. Right now in Mississauga, there are closed schools, they're sitting empty and not being used, and in the same community, Trillium Health Partners is looking for long-term space. So the solution sounds really simple. We should be able to make that happen. So, how do we come together as partners, and how do we break down those planning barriers that keep that very intuitive thing from happening? And I know that the connections that you're going to make here over the next few days will help with that. The resource network that Bob just talked about will help with that. And we'll actively step up as a province and help too. We know that the planning required to make a hub come together is complicated. We know it's time-consuming, and those silos that I talked about can make developing a community hub really frustrating. So we changed the regulation to extend the time for the sale of surplus school properties, and that helped. But we need to do more to resolve this challenge of timing and coordination, because we can't assume that everything will come together at the same time, that everybody will be in lockstep making decisions at the same time. Often the sale of surplus public property doesn't give communities enough time to develop a sustainable business plan and determine the viability of a community hub. So that isn't right. We know these things take that time, and we need to give communities some time to come together. So I'm happy to announce that we're going to do that. We're creating an application-based demonstration program to help community groups like yours who have identified an opportunity to purchase a surplus public property for community use. So what this program will do is it will help to hold the selected property in public use for up to 18 months. We will hold on to that property. That's right. So the funding that will allow that to happen is not meant to hold the property in perpetuity. So it's not a case of, oh, well, the provincial government will just fund this forever. It is really about providing the time for those conversations to take place, the time to find your partners, complete your business plan, secure the right public or private funding to create that community hub. And at the same time, we're going to work towards better alignment of provincial decision-making across ministries so that we're helping move along the development of community hubs. Those are nice words for saying we are going to force ministries to work together because it has to happen. And, you know, I've seen a number of deputy ministers here, and this is not about individuals. This is not about vilifying ministries. The reality is everybody gets very busy. There's a lot that goes on, a lot of decisions that have to be made, and a lot of work that has to be done to advise ministers to put in place the machinery of government. One of the hardest things about government is getting that horizontal conversation across ministries. And, you know, it's one of the reasons that you see governments when they come in, or governments that make decisions, we all make decisions about changing the names of ministries and moving ministries around. Many, many times, the impetus behind that is, well, we need these guys talking to each other, so let's create a ministry and put them all together. But then you realize, okay, now we've got these guys, now they have to speak to these guys. Ultimately, you'd have one great big ministry because you need everybody to talk together. That's not practical, so we have to find better ways of that interministerial cooperation. So that is what we commit to you, that we will work even harder to make those interministerial conversations happen. Because if they don't, then you get caught on the ground being shunted off to one set of people or another set of people and not coming together. So my belief, and from what I've seen, is that if we can do this, it will mean that there will be more long-term care homes and seniors housing for aging population. It'll mean more youth support programs, more childcare spaces to take the pressure off working parents, and in certain cases where we've identified community use, a business plan, and the necessary funding partners, the province will make sure that the property stays in public use, because ultimately that may be what a community wants. And so that's what we want to do. We don't want to sit by and watch schools and hospitals and provincial properties disappear when there's a pressing and practical community need for those properties. That is wasteful in the extreme, and we don't want that to happen. Look at our recent proposal to acquire Silver Creek Public School in Etobicoke. The closure of Silver Creek would have meant over 1,200 kids losing mental health and autism support programming, as well as licensed childcare. And that's not fair to the neighborhood, and it's certainly not fair to the kids. And it would be incredibly short-sighted public policy. So we stepped in to ensure that the school continued to operate as a community hub, and we saved those critical services that families in Etobicoke depend upon. So we know that this can be done. It takes some will and some creativity, and as I've just said, it takes some money in order to allow for the planning time. But we're making progress. I know we still have challenges, but I know that the right people are in this room to come together and help us to solve those challenges. Thank you so much for taking this on in your communities, and thank you for being here today. Merci. Miigwech.